Health Matters with Monique Elliott in association with the Honey Lifestyle Network, bringing you informative information for daily living.
Welcome to Mind Health Matters. I am your host, Monique Elliott, and I am so excited to have you here today. We are honored to be interviewing with an amazing guest. Her name is Idalia Wilmoth, and she is a fashion curator. I often smile at her and tease her. She's much more than that. She's a professor, a doctoral candidate, just so many accolades about her. But I've asked her to join us today because, ladies and gentlemen, it is so important how we show up. You know we're here for your mind. Mind health matters. But I want to tell you something. How we shine on the inside often reflects or doesn't reflect on our outside. And so there are a couple of things I want to start with before we talk to our honored guest. First of all, myth number one, it doesn't matter how you show up, just show up. I want to tell you something, that's a myth. Because first impressions, second impressions, third impressions, they all matter. It matters because you're representing yourself, even if no one else has anything to say. It's important how you show up. It's important for your mind health. Why do I say that? Listen, I have seen when people have gone through depression, how it shows on them physically. And just by changing one small thing, even if it means waking up, getting out of the bed and taking a shower and combing their hair, or waking up and just getting dressed, can change an entire mood. And so today we're going to just delve into that. I know we've been told so many things. We're also going to be looking at it from a spiritual perspective as well, because there are times, and I'm talking to our church people today too, that we will show up and not be our complete selves because we feel like we might be outshining someone, or we may not, we may be noticed. Let me tell you something. God wants you to be noticed. He made the sun, he made the rainbows, he made the flowers bloom with all their beautiful shades. How do you think he wants that to happen for his child? So this is vital. Thank you for being with us today. And now we're going to talk to our special guest. I call her Dahlia, yes, but you're going to be able to find her right after the show, okay? Dahlia, welcome, honey.
Well, thank you
for
so much.
Joining me today.
Thank you so much for allowing me to be here.
Yes, you know, I chose you, love, because you, to me, radiate beauty, but also style, radiate confidence, honey. And I think that's so vital. And you love the Lord.
Absolutely.
Yes. And so I'm saying all of those together. We don't have to leave out one,
That's
right?
That's right.
And so I wanted to ask you this, love. What brought you to the point of wanting to get into fashion, of helping others to get together their look and also to radiate from the inside?
Yes.
Yes.
So thank you again for this opportunity. And from the beginning, as a young child at 5 years old, my mother, I grew up in a household who, once you got up in the morning, you put your clothes on. Those pajamas had to go.
You couldn't wear them outside?
No, you couldn't even wear them in the living room. I just came from that household that taught me when you wake up, you brush your teeth, you wash your face, and it's time for you to be ready. Always to be ready, because you never knew who was coming to the house.
Okay. Okay, honey.
And so as a child, it was just engraved in me. So when I woke up, I washed my face, I brushed my teeth, I did my devotional, and right after the pajamas was gone,
yes.
and I put on clothing. And so one of my greatest heroes is my mother. She actually was the person who invoked creativity, who invoked the spirit of stepping outside of the box. She's a quiet storm, but behind that quiet storm, she was curating things. Like, she would find like little materials around the house and would make just anything out of anything. And she was just like, girl, just put this on, you going to school. And so my culture too, I'm part, my mom's being from Arkansas, my dad's being from the islands of Honduras.
Yes.
Those clash begin to try to evoke this spirit of color,
Come on.
of art,
Come on.
of creativity. And so my parents were one of the people who did not just stay in this one lane. They always said, hey, try something new.
Yes.
And I was always trying something new. And so that's how I became with this clothing, with the color clash.
Yes.
But I also admired the women in the church.
Yes.
Growing up in the church, I remember seeing during like communion
Yes.
when the women used to wear their two-piece white
Yeah, I was
outfit.
going to say the all white. Come on now. From the head to the toe.
But it was more than them just putting the white on. It was about the dignity that they carried inside of the church. They
Yes.
took it very seriously. It was a reverence that they took. And as I watched them walk down the aisle,
Yes.
getting prepared to do the communion service, it was the orderly fashion of how they showed up. I would see their shoulders kind of
Come on now.
buff up a little bit, you
Yes,
know.
yes.
They took their positions very seriously. And seeing those images of black women and black men, also my grandfather was a tailor. He was a tailor. And I
Oh, this
remember
is nice.
bishops and people in the choir would come down to the
Yes.
basement and have my grandfather put little buttons on their shirts.
Oh, I love
and
it.
The bishops, if they got a little, got a little weight, it's okay.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
Had to take in and take out, and I paid attention to what he was doing. He was helping the community out in ways that once they left the house,
Come on now.
and they were able to put this robe on, there was a robe of them dignity, and they thought about themselves outside of this piece of clothing. They
Yes.
thought about being a leader. I think about some of the bishops who came to the house. They were really
Yes.
just off saying, this robe of dignity. It's the
Yes.
robe. It's more than just this physical piece of cloth.
Yes.
It's about my position that God has given me, my God-given purpose. And
Yes.
so as I started moving forward, I've always been into fashion and arts.
Yeah.
I'm just an artist. I love music. It's a God-given gift. It just came.
I love it.
It just came out of nowhere.
Well, tell me this. How did you then begin to, because you shine, but how did you begin to pour that into others? How did you begin to mold that? Because being a mental health specialist myself, but also I love color. I also love art. My mother was an artist. I just love all the things that I really love nature. So I get a lot of inspiration out there. But how did you begin to say, hey, I want to do this to bring beauty out of others? What did you do and how do you do that?
So it was around 2011. I actually got to a point where I had a mental breakdown. I was going through undergrad and I was just doing what society wanted me to do.
Okay.
If sometimes parents have the best ideas for their children, but sometimes
Yes.
it's not the path that God has given them
Yes,
to do.
darling.
And so what happened, I got to this point where I poured myself out so much of stuff that I didn't really want to do.
Yes.
And I came to a woman named Nashara Mitchell, I'll never forget. And she said, Dahlia, what do you actually want to do?
Yes.
She said, you got a plan A. Well, what's your plan B? And I was like, I don't have no plan B. What you talking about? Plan A is going to be plan A, and that's going to be for the rest of my life.
Yes.
But I took a 9-month personal development health hiatus.
Beautiful.
And so during that 9 months, she hit me to the core and said, who are you, Dahlia?
Yes.
And I was struggling trying to figure out, well, who am I?
Yes.
Because
Because who am I? My mother has told me who I am. My father has told me who I
the
need
church
to be.
pretends to say that they
Yeah.
know who you are.
Right, the church can, and the church members, the pressure can be on there that they want you to show up a certain way.
Absolutely.
But God made you.
That's right.
God
right.
made me
That's right.
to fulfill his purposes
That's right.
and his creativity.
That's right.
And so what happened, baby? What began to happen?
So as I was going through this personal development thing, she was getting me into the arts. She had a studio downtown Indianapolis that I was interning at. And so we would do special events She was like, I want you to curate some of these arts. So we would have artists come in once a month, first Fridays, and we would come in. And she's like, but I want you to do it yourself. And so one day I had just a clean slate. She didn't even show up to the intern.
Okay.
So what is she going to do? What am I going to do? I had to put an event all by myself.
Yes.
But I realized then that's when Pretty Authenticated kind of just popped off. So my business, Pretty Authenticated, at first people were like, what is a Pretty Authenticated? But I said, oftentimes we talk about being pretty, but it's just a bare minimum. But I don't look as pretty as just this, oh, you're just pretty, Monique. You know, I look at it as like pretty and authenticated.
Come on now.
There's an authentic piece to being pretty.
Yes.
And so as I started to pull these things together, that was the moment where it just burst. It just came out. It just like, okay, it's time for me to move. It's time for me to move.
Yes.
It's time for me to move. So I started getting into textiles. I started getting back into my clothing.
Yes.
Yes. And so I would go to thrift stores and I would just
Tell us about it, honey.
Yes.
Tell us about it. See, that's what I love about you too. Listen, this is what I love about this woman as well. Okay, I got to tell y'all something, which I love. She spoke for me in New Orleans, and so I do women's conferences, and this beautiful sister, honey, she brought a bag this big.
Yes.
I kid you not, a bag this big for almost definitely 5 days, and not just changing once. Now listen to me. That 5 days wasn't for changing one time. And so the beauty of it was stuff just kept coming out of this bag.
Yeah.
But she was flipping it around. She was making it happen. And so tell me, baby, about how you put these things together, thrifting with just finding pieces. She's able to find pieces as well.
Absolutely. So I'm also believe in minimalism, and two, when I was an undergrad, I was a first generation college student. I could not afford the clothing that I really wanted. So I said I had to come up with some type of way. And I would go around the city and I would look at certain thrift stores. At the time, there was all these different Goodwills, and I would pair and say, what side of the town of Goodwill? Either you go further north, or you go further south, and you start thinking about the demographic. So if you're more in the city, you're going to get more city things. If you're more out, you're going to get more professional looking things. And so I started pairing. I started buying pieces here and here and here and there. And so I travel a lot as well. But when I travel, I like to go shopping wherever I'm traveling.
Yes.
And so when I travel, I'm like, no, I can't be, it costs money, y'all. About, $65 a pop for
Yes, exactly.
for a suitcase. And I said, I have to learn how to pair these pieces together for a conference, for a wedding. And so what I do is I find couple standard pieces.
Tell us about them. What are they, honey?
A suit jacket.
Okay.
Always get a suit jacket.
Okay.
Always get one standard dress that you can pair with the suit jacket. So it could be any color.
Oh,
any color.
Okay.
It could be any color. It could be green. It could be white. It could be. But the standard thing is that your suit jacket needs to be a standard color. So black, brown, navy blue.
Okay.
Because I'm a little evolved, sometimes I'll go pink, green, red. I really don't care.
Yes, I love it.
I just pair whatever.
We want to be evolved with you, honey.
Evolve with me. Evolve with me. Then I get a standard dress. I also bring one pair of jeans. I might wear them on the plane, or I may put one pair of slacks, black. Because what happens is when I go shopping out there, then I'll find, I found a blouse.
I love that.
When I was in New Orleans, we went shopping.
Yes, y'all did. I saw. Yes, honey. And came back with some fabulous pieces.
We came back with some fabulous things. And so during the day, and I even with shoes, nudes.
Okay.
Blacks.
Okay.
You can do whatever you want to with those particular colors.
Yes.
And you get one pump, one flat, because
Yes. We're not staying up in those heels. I'm telling you right now.
Not standing up in those heels. And then you learn how to compact it into a suitcase. And so what I do is I put a Ziploc bag. Sometimes I use Ziploc bags. I use compression bags.
Okay.
Suction cup vacuum bags.
Yes.
That takes down the layer. And
Come on now.
That's how I do it.
I love it. I love it. And let me tell you, she looked fabulous the whole weekend, okay? She looked wonderful the whole
Yeah, it was
weekend.
fun.
I love what you just said, a minimalist, because the fact is, listen, sometimes we just don't have it. What I mean by that is
Yes.
it can be finances, it could be time, it could be just we don't have the energy.
Right.
But what I love too, Dahlia, is that you know how to dress a woman no matter what size she is.
Absolutely.
And I love that about you because there is a thing in our atmosphere, in our country
That's right.
especially, that we judge people on their body size.
Yeah.
And so what can happen is you may start feeling frumpy that you don't deserve to dress nice if you're a certain size.
Yeah.
And we have to get away from that.
Yeah.
Listen to me, men and women. You can show up. It matters how you show up, baby, and it affects your mind. And so tell us, how does that look? What do you say to women of different sizes?
So the first thing when I talk to women or men
Yes.
is say, what is your purpose? What is the purpose of you changing your wardrobe? Because usually most of the clients that I get, they say, oh, I want a makeover.
Oh,
And
okay.
so before I even get to the whole makeover part, I'm trying to establish where they're at.
Okay.
And said, hey, what's going on with your life? Why is it that now that you want to change?
Yes.
Sometimes I don't get the response. And there's times where I've turned down people just right there at that level because I can
Okay.
tell that you're not ready to grow.
Okay.
It's a process. It took me about 6 years to get here.
Yes, honey.
Now don't
Yes.
get me wrong. I came out the womb fabulous. Like,
All right, come on. Come on.
I came out the womb
Come on
fabulous.
now.
However, I do know that it takes time and effort
Mm-hmm.
to get to where I'm at now. And so people see the end result of this, whatever they think is end
Yes.
result, because I'm still evolving.
Yes, we all are.
We're still evolving.
Yes.
But one of the things I say, why? Why are we changing what's going on? And oftentimes it's life,
Okay.
midlife crisis.
Yes.
Things happen where, some people have a complex about themselves. It's like, man, I gained weight.
Yes.
And I said, it's normal. Our bodies change.
What?
we're
Could you
not-
say that again?
Our bodies change.
Yes.
Our bodies change over time. I look back at some of the pictures myself. I said, ooh, I wish I could put those pants on. I was like, no, that's just not reality.
Yes.
Two is that we live in a society where we watch social media a lot. And there's just a lot of garbage.
Say that.
There's
darling.
a lot of garbage out here.
Yes.
And I often say, they say, well, do you follow the trends? I follow the trends not to mimic. I
Okay.
follow the trends just to get awareness to say, what's the conversation?
Yes. Yes.
I tell them, turn that stuff off. Stop.
Yes.
I want to be Beyonce. You can't be Beyonce because she's Beyonce.
Only
It's
one.
only
Only one,
You know, I
yes.
want to be like this. I say, can't you be yourself?
Yes.
And so oftentimes I'll go through this personal development. Sometimes it starts at the age of 5 or 6. I go all the way back to the earliest forms. Like, what happened in your childhood that you stopped wearing color?
Yes.
Then I hear stories about, well, an adult said that I looked ugly in red.
Yes.
And then that has transformed their lives for decades.
Yes.
And I go back and say, we're going to put on red, but not right now.
Right. Right.
We're going to take the steps. And so oftentimes I'll say, have you been to therapy? Do you need a therapist?
Yes.
Do you need someone to help you get to those steps?
Because the change comes from within.
Absolutely.
And that's what I've been speaking about. It's showing up. But when we show up, we want to be showing up inward and outward.
Absolutely.
And also, I want to touch on something you said there. Many times we have been spoken to based also on the color of our skin. Listen to me. I believe me what I'm saying to you right now. I've experienced it and I've seen it, and we've been told, you're too light, you're too dark, your hair is too this, you're this, and it has affected our self-worth. Our self-esteem,
Oh, my
and that
goodness.
affects our clothes.
Yes. One of the biggest pet peeves that I don't like.
Tell me about it.
I don't like colorism.
Break it down.
I just don't like colorism. The ideology behind
Yes.
this whole spectrum of if you're lighter skin, you're closer to whiteness. If you're darker skin, you're closer to being a non-citizen.
Yes.
I have issues with that because in the Black community, we have a spectrum of beautiful melanated skin.
Yes.
And there has been this myth about that African people from the continent
Yes.
are dark-skinned or dark-complected complected or dark and melanated people. But I said, if you ever been to the continent like I have,
Yeah.
you look like you came from Nigeria. Like
Exactly,
seriously.
yes.
And those conversations, you know, it's because we live in America that has whitewashed
Yes.
a lot of things. You think about our makeup is now is getting better, but you
Yes.
know, you think about the complexions of makeup.
Yes. Yes.
Stockings,
Oh, help me. Oh, help me, honey.
you know,
Oh, I remember.
you know,
Oh,
the opaque
Getting,
stockings.
getting a stocking to match this brown was
know,
not going to happen.
Your legs look ashy, you know.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
but those conversations.
It's the truth, girl.
It's the truth.
And rollers. You never knew how happy I was, y'all, when we were growing up to get away from pink rollers.
Yes. Yes.
Even rollers. So things were not created at first for us.
Yes. And so there are still individuals who are still operating out of this idea that I cannot wear certain colors because I'm too dark, I'm too light, I'm too this, my lips are too full, my lips are too black. It's just a whole,
Yes.
or, you know, I have a little bit more hips, or I have a
Yes.
little bit more bust. I can't do this, I can't do that. And that goes back to some of these respectability politics that kind of emerge out of the church of
Okay.
saying, how does someone show up out of respect to God? And so
Yes.
what happens is people, human beings, have constructed an
Yes.
idea to say, this is how you show up in church. And
Yes.
if you are against this little thing, I
Yes.
don't even know where this list even came
I don't know where it came from. I don't know.
because when you read the word of God, if God says he created you,
Yes. And he said in his image.
Last time I checked,
Come on.
You
Was
know,
he fabulous?
he was fabulous.
Gorgeous.
I love it.
Our God's the descriptions that
absolutely.
are in the word so many times of
Yes.
his beauty
Absolutely.
and how he dressed his kings and queens. And I even tell, you know, my grandbabies, you are queens, you're princesses.
That's right.
You know, you're a princess.
And we always talk about put on my robe and tell the story how I made it over, but that robe,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, it ain't no sheet.
It is not.
Sorry, I'm not
It is
putting no
not.
sheet on.
It is
You
not
know,
a
and we think
sheet.
about a crown. We
Yes.
often we say these different terms and words as a way to uplift us, but we don't believe in putting into work in
Yes.
reality that
Yes.
this is a crown.
Come on now.
That putting this shirt on or this dress is a
Yes.
robe.
Yes, honey.
And it's the righteousness and the grace and the mercy that's within inside of me.
Yes.
And as I walk and as I talk and as I move forward,
Yes.
is that is where God is.
Yes.
That is where God is.
Yes.
And I've learned that over time. It took a while because, of course, you get indoctrinated so easily into what other people are saying about you, particularly in the church.
And to please others.
Yes.
And I want to say this, even in showing up, it has to be this way. That is this pleasing this way? You know, because everyone has an opinion this way.
Yeah.
And it has to be what is best for you.
Absolutely. And I started, as I dove into it more, and I
Yes.
started having my personal relationship with God, God was like, Dahlia, I made you so authentic
Come on now.
that your purpose and your calling looks totally different than everyone else's. But
Okay.
that doesn't mean that I'm not a part of the kingdom. It doesn't mean that I'm outcasted or X,
That's
Y, and
right.
Z.
That's right.
So what I do now, I just show up.
Come on now.
I show up, and showing
Yes.
up is not for you.
It's the truth.
It's not for the church.
Uh-huh.
It's not for anybody. It's for me. Number one, I think about my ancestors.
Yes.
I often think about my ancestors and how most of them were either on plantation, were robbed, or killed, destroyed, didn't
Yes.
even had bare rags on them.
Yes.
But they still showed up to move forward.
Yes.
I think about Frederick Douglass. Like, you know,
Yes, yes.
he actually put this picture of him of himself with the afro on purpose because he
Yes.
said, I'm so used to seeing plantation owners positioning themselves a certain way. I want to make sure that I position myself that I matter. So that's why
Yes.
Ida B. Wells took that picture, and you see her
Yes.
with her, you know,
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Yes.
But those conversations I often have and say, okay, how can I continue to show up? I'm going to show up for authentically what God has called me to be.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
And there are days where I struggle.
Okay, tell us about the struggle.
Yeah, there's days where I struggle to show up, you know, and
Yes.
so I have to do affirmations.
Okay.
Or I'll call my sister friend.
Yes.
Or I have a tribe or a group of people that is just amazing. So,
Yes, I love it. She brought it back, everyone, the tribe.
yep.
The tribe. I'm gonna tell you that has been a theme.
Oh, good.
And yes, and I know that is God thought, because every show almost has been about the tribe. Listen, connect with your tribe. Keep talking to your sisters.
Yeah.
Keep talking to your brothers. Talk to your friends. Let them work with you and help you to be the authentic person you're meant to be, okay? It doesn't all come natural. Sometimes it's a struggle. But Idalia, I want to thank you for being
you.
with us today. I want to thank you for showing up your fabulous self as you are. And I want to remind you that no matter what you're going through, you can still show up for yourself. Do you understand me? You can get up and make this day new for you. And remember, mind, health matters.